Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and oh boy, it is that time of the year where we highlight the games we love, which I already did, but also the games that totally disappointed us. Now last year, it was really easy to make that list because Star Wars Battlefront came out. This year, it seems like a lot of people have differing opinions on various titles where some are critically acclaimed, but yet people still have struggles enjoying them, and I feel like that's kind of where my list has leaned towards. But nonetheless, this is my opinion. I encourage you to express yours in the comments down below, and now let's get into this list. Starting off with Xenoverse 2. Okay, as a Dragon Ball fan, I was so excited to hear about a Xenoverse sequel. The first Dragon Ball Xenoverse was a breath of fresh air because of the focus on two brand new villains altering the history of the classic DBZ arcs we know and love. The end result was a Dragon Ball story that actually wasn't the same thing I had seen 40,000 times over, so it was a step in the right direction. The first Xenoverse also allowed you to create your own character, customize him or her with outfits and moves from all the wonderful characters in this badass universe. All this and more was new to Dragon Ball games, so I was hoping the second entry would continue the trend of innovating in a franchise whose games need a good shot in the arm. The sad truth is that Xenoverse 2 is exactly the same as Xenoverse 1. And no, I'm not kidding. I know super fans of the franchise will highlight the minor combat changes, the different hub world, and so on, but in the end, this is the same exact game for about 85% of the main story arc. Fighting the same characters isn't my issue because I've been doing that since my childhood, but man, Xenoverse 2 is just so comfortable with the idea that you love the first entry of the game that you may want it a second time over. The way grouping up in the game works is barred off by lots of loading screens and confusing design choices, repeating the same missions so you and your teammates can complete them, and lots of prayers to RNGesus who may or may not give you that cool move you desperately want for your character. The beast battles are also the clunkiest thing, but the developer must have not have thought so because you have to do them 1,000,001 times over. All in all, Xenoverse 2 misses the ball for me. There is still room to innovate with this game franchise, but Dimps became way too comfortable with the success of the first entry. I'm sure there'll be a Xenoverse 3 or something along those lines, and I'm crossing my fingers that they tackle the next entry with the same ambition as the first game. Okay, this one hurts a bit because I want to love Mafia 3 so much that documentary style storytelling in comparison to anything else engaged the living hell out of me. Mafia 3 comes roaring out of the gates in those first 10 hours or so, where you simply can't imagine it letting up, that the game will continue to blow your socks off, but that monotony slowly sets in, okay? As Lincoln Clay, you want to exact revenge on Sal Marcano, and rightfully so, but in order to do so, you need to lure out all his dipshit lieutenants who fall for the same bag of tricks, which is destroying various options that are generating revenue for the Italian mob within that sector. Once enough are destroyed, take out whoever is the leader in that area, and you'll repeat the process for about 35 to 40 hours before the credits roll. The game often encourages stealth, but the AI is just so dumb that it stripped out any fun of that too. Mafia 3 does push the limit as much as possible to tell its story, which I give it credit for, but in the end, the repetitive nature of the gameplay sucks any fun I'm having out of the experience. Shockingly, this game didn't amend the biggest complaint with Mafia 2. Now, Mafia 2 is basically a story game set in an open world with zero side activities. I don't even know why they put it in an open world. Anyway, all people really asked for with Mafia 3 was that same emotional story, but actually fill the world with things to do, you know? Now, Mafia 3 had the illusion of side activities, but everything you do ties into that system I mentioned earlier where you take down lieutenants, so they're really not side objectives at all, because to take down lieutenants, you have to do that to progress in the main story. So everything in the game is focused on the main story, just as in Mafia 2. It blows my mind that they repeated that same mistake that people were incredibly vocal about from the get-go before Mafia 3 was even a thing. Also, while I have to say I didn't experience many, the game definitely had its fair share of bugs at launch, and apparently the PC port is garbage. Now maybe I'm a fool for having high expectations, how dare I, but I think that with the way this game was looking and how Hangar 13 was with the development of this title, that gamers would pick up on glaring flaws, but I suppose repetitiveness is something that you can only pick up on if you're playing the game itself or watching a very extensive playthrough. And lastly, at number 1 is The Last Guardian. I made a 12+ minute video on why The Last Guardian disappointed the absolute life out of me. So part of me is just very tempted to link you guys that video and end it here, but let me give you the short and sweet version, okay? Starting off with Trico's AI, which was the bane of my gaming experience throughout 2016. I envy other gamers so much who got through The Last Guardian without many troubles with him obeying commands and somehow extracting enjoyment from those times where he doesn't listen to you. Firing the same command 40 times over is not fun for me, no matter what the title is. The fact that the developer has stated in interviews that this was an intentional part of the game's design is the biggest cop-out of 2016 as well. They try to model Trico after an actual animal, But as time goes on, my dog doesn't listen to me less. He trusts me more and in result obeys my commands often. That is not the case for The Last Guardian. Repetitive puzzles ruin my soul because I feel that form of monotony sets in quicker than any other gameplay focus. The Last Guardian is chock full of them. How about constantly destroying glass eyes or running away from spirit-filled suits of armor? Yeah, I was about at my wit's end with those mechanics by the time the credits had rolled. The camera is the icing on the cake. I'm not sure how they hid this atrocity in game demos because it seems like I had a problem with it being caught on an object every 10 minutes. Now, why is this my most disappointing game of 2016? Well, like every other game on this list, they all have their own individual potential that I didn't feel was fully realized. This just happens to be the game with the most potential that didn't live up to my own standards whatsoever. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a list that many didn't agree with, but hey, that's what makes us different, and I hope you guys can respect my opinion as I respect yours. And in the bright side of things, it's good that for 2 years straight, I haven't been able to find anything more than 3 games that really disappointed me. So that means that the industry is trending in the right direction. When I make a top 5 most disappointing games video, that's when my personal take is going to be, wow, what is happening, ladies and gentlemen? But nonetheless, I'd love to hear what games disappointed you guys. I'm curious to see if you agree with my list or not. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. The links are, as always, in the description down below. Check out TriggerBomb.com, the place by Bethesda fans for Bethesda fans. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.